Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Vasil and I'm living on and restoring this 1974 Columbia 45. In this episode, the dinghy I just bought not that long ago, it's only been a couple weeks, is already having engine problems. This is a 4-stroke motor. I'm not sure if the problem is strictly because it is a 4-stroke motor as opposed to a 2-stroke motor, but it is stalling quite regularly to the point where I'm not able to even use the motor to get to the boat today. So I rode out to the boat today, and my hope is I have a fix for that motor. Yeah, because I really need that dinghy. That's my daily commuter to the beach where I park the dinghy, and I work 6 days a week. So if I have to row every single day, that puts a dent in a lot of my my daily tasks. So let's get outside. I'll show you what the motor looks like and what I think the problem is. Here we are in the dinghy, and looks like a standard motor on the dinghy. And if you guys have noticed, there's a hose that is now sticking out of the cowl. So I'm going to take that cowl off and explain to you what I think the problem is, and then we'll go from there. Here's the engine with the cowl off, and if we take a look, so this tube that I have sticking out and it's not connected basically runs out of the crankcase. So any uncirculated gases should get recirculated back into the carburetor. So this is how it normally sits. It sits inside of that little hole and recirculates any unburned gases back into the carburetor, therefore lowering emissions. What is actually happening at the moment is as the motor stalls, we have gas and oil that are squirting out of the carburetor. What I think the problem is the float, which is located right over here, is broken. So what that causes the motor to do is continuously uptake gas, regardless of whether it needs it or not. And as the valves in the cylinders move, the gas essentially gets into the crankcase and eventually fills up where the oil is. Once that gets filled up, it under pressure comes out of here and gets recirculated back into the carburetor. I'm gonna open up the oil reservoir so you guys can see what's going on inside. Okay, if we take a look inside, you can see that is supposed to be oil. It's not, it's gasoline. So all the oil has been run out of the crankcase because, again, it's feeding so much extra gas into the engine. It's basically blowing by the valves and coming into the crankcase, and then under pressure going back into the carburetor. So that's why I had it disconnected, because there were several days where I was able to make it to shore just if I had the the engine on choke, and basically just on this setting. So turn it on, put it in forward, and hope you get to beach. And if not, here are the oars. But yeah, that's not good. That's basically almost 100% gasoline where oil should be. So not only is this engine not getting lubrication, it also needs to be fixed. So the first step in the process is going to be to remove the carburetor. This is the carburetor right here. So it should be a couple of 10mm bolts. I'm going to start with these two guys. Remove that along with this pipe, and then remove the throttle bodies. And then we should have a carburetor that's easy to come off. Also, this is the choke. So again, another 10mm bolt that allows you to take the choke wire off. That's how the choke operates. So let's get this thing off this engine. Also, lifting the motor out of the water is very helpful, because now everything is basically inside of the dinghy. So if I drop any screws, they're not going to be going into the water, they're going to be going into the boat. But let's be diligent and not drop any screws anyway. First thing is loosen this bolt and then take out the choke. So this is pretty simple. It just basically goes inside of there. Once you have enough room and the bolt is out, you just lift it up and pull it out. After that, it's going to be taking out these two screws, and once this is loose, I'll be able to remove this portion, because they're designed so that once you have it loose, you can actually manipulate them out of the hole. Got those two bolts loose, so carburetor is now almost free. So we can actually just release the fuel line. There's one coming off the pump, and the second one is connected right over here to the carburetor. So let's disconnect this line. Okay, we got a little bit of gas coming out and that's okay. And once that's loose, so again, this twists right through here. Good. Now carburetor's free. Let's take this guy inside, and I'll show you what the problem is. Once inside, again, try to protect the areas where you work. So this does have some residual gas. So again, we have paper towels and another towel, shop towel underneath for any gas that's gonna spill over. And here it is. Here's the carburetor. So that's the air intake. That is the gas intake. This is where it enters the cylinder. And this right here is the float. This is where I think the problem is. So I'm gonna take this apart and show you what that mechanism looks like and what the problem might be. In order to take the float out, there are 2 screws, one on either side of the float. Those just need to be removed, and this comes out very easily. There is a gasket that runs along the outline. That gasket should be fine, but let's take these screws out and take a look inside. Okay, here we go. So that is where the fuel sits, and then this is the carburetor. So let me show you guys essentially what's happening. So this is the float. It pulls or pushes on this little seat. So basically, when the carburetor is empty and gas is able to enter inside, and as the carburetor fills up with gas, the idea is that the float comes up and then closes off this point right here where the gas is no longer able to enter. So I think my problem is inside of here because it's not seating properly and not allowing gas to stop pumping through the carburetor, which in turn ends up inside of my crankcase. In order to examine this seat further, there's a little rod right here. So this little rod, it's holding the seat. So idea is you push it over using a screwdriver, and then you have a little clip at the end that you could use some pliers and pull that rod out, and that should give you access to that seat. So here we go. I got the pin out. That allows me to remove the entire float and drop everything, obviously. Okay. Once everything's been found on the floor, this is what that little needle looks like. So this rubber piece is supposed to be going inside of that hole, inside the carburetor, to make sure the gas is not entering any longer. My solution to this problem is this piece right here is $9. So I could have bought that for $9 or opt to go for a full brand new carburetor from Amazon for $30. So that's what I did. I basically bought a brand new carburetor from Amazon because in terms of money, it's not that much of a difference to go from $9 for this little piece and hope that solves my problems versus potentially having other issues with this carburetor that I'm not aware of, and just get a brand new carburetor for 30 bucks. Here is the replacement carburetor. Here is the old carburetor. So this piece needs to come off, and the intake also needs to come off. Then it did come with gaskets. So I have 2 gaskets, and those gaskets need to be put on the places where they belong, and essentially just swap this over and go ahead back to the motor and test it out. To remove both of the pieces that I need to remove is actually just 2 screws. There are 2 long screws that go the entirety of the carburetor. They're also 10mm screws. So once these have been loosened, they should come out relatively easily and release the intake and the intake into the cylinders. So these do take a little bit of time to get free because there is a good amount of thread, but once you get them free, here we go. That is the rear, and just gently remove the screws, and we have the old carburetor. Okay, these are the gaskets that I will be replacing. The other one is on here, I believe. No, the other one's on here. Okay. These gaskets are not easy to mix up because the profile where they're going is very distinct. So you can see the difference. This one has a little edge on it, and each gasket corresponds with the correct side. So you can see a little hole right here that has to match up. So this is the front. I'm gonna put the intake back in using these screws and make sure that we have everything that came off is going back on. Once that's like that, we could take the other one and orient it accordingly, slide it on the screws, and then reinsert this piece. Now guys, this is a replacement carburetor for many engines. So this is a replacement for Nissan, Tohatsu, and several other makes. And essentially, this carburetor came on a variety of motors. I think a 3, 4, 5, and 6 horsepower varieties of, again, the Nissan, Tohatsu, and several other brands. So there is one distinct difference, is that the fuel line is on the opposite side. So if we oriented my carburetor, the old one, the fuel line on this one is on this side, and on the new carburetor, it's on the other side. So not a big difference. We should have plenty of room with the old fuel line to reach this part. And now it's just a matter of, again, tightening everything down and then throwing this back on the engine and hoping everything works. Reassembly is pretty easy. I mean, this isn't a very complicated portion, but once everything's been put back, again, I just need to put these screws back and then reattach the choke mechanism, put the fuel line back onto the pump, and hopefully she fires up. Good news is she is running. So carburetor is working, she is running. I think that should solve the problem. The next step is I have to drain the gasoline out of the crankcase because it's way overfilled, so it's still coming out of this breather valve. And once I attach this, again, I don't want it to be feeding gas and oil back into the carburetor. So these are actually quite sensitive in terms of how much oil you should have in them. These are specifically not to be overfilled. So you have to monitor the amount of oil you have in there, and this is full of gas. So this needs to be drained and then swapped back with oil. Once I do that, I'm actually gonna take this thing out for a ride and see if that solved all the issues. But I think that would do it, because that's the only thing else I found that would cause gas to blow by into the crankcase is if these engines are cold. The rings inside the pistons haven't expanded enough, and that could get some blow by of gas into the crankcase. However, the amount of gas that's coming out is insane. So that would not be happening from a piston ring. The engine straight up just wouldn't be working. So I think the float was the issue. So we repaired that with a completely new carburetor, and it's just time to swap that oil. Oil has been changed, or I should say the gas was taken out and oil was put in. This is what I used, got it at West Marine, 4-stroke 10W30. That should work. Let's give this thing a go. Let's see how she rides. I'm gonna get down there, put the cowling back in, put that breather tube back from the crankcase into the top portion of the carburetor. And I'm hoping she's gonna ride pretty good, because I need you, Dinghy. I need you on a daily basis. Sounds really good. That's with the choke. There we go, running motor. Let's detach the line and go for a ride. She's running great, she really is. Give her some throttle, pick it up, get her to set properly. And then we're moving pretty good. Well guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope that helps someone how easy it is to change a carburetor, and that in most cases it's almost as cheap just to change the entire carburetor versus changing small pieces here and there, especially that the reviews on that one were quite fantastic. And this is a short but sweet episode. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.